All right, everyone, we should be live. We'll make sure that's the case as always. I know that we're probably live over on Rumble because Rumble Rants does appear to actually be working. Just a moment here. Make sure all of my tabs are open and proper. Mostly archived, of course. We don't want to give any clickbait to groups like CNN. It's bad for reality. It's bad for the entire world. Anyway, we'll make sure that we're live. Come on, you know you want to load. Heavily caffeinated mode. By the way, I am happy because they do have the proper energy drinks back at the local store. They must have gotten a shipment in. It doesn't appear that we're live yet on Rumble. Come on. Load the video feed. Do your job. It says I started streaming, but it's still showing the please stand by. Well, I'm assuming that we're live. Can people see me over on Rumble? I am live? Okay, then it's just on my end. There's some problem. A bunch of people already watching, by the way, on all platforms. Anyway, we have a loaded news day today. We've got 11 different things that we have to cover, several of which are quite major. Lee Zeldin, the Kosciarella story, and of course, Twitter deciding to mollycoddle groomers, child molesters really is a proper term for it. We've got plenty of stuff to cover here. Lots of leftoid cringe today. It'll be quite a show, I think. Also, I'll be making stuffed shells later. I've never made it before, but it's fairly self-explanatory. So I'm going to get a double dose of that ricotta goodness later for that protein. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I can't wait. Never cooked them before. I'm learning all sorts of new recipes. I'm also going to make my own paneer fairly soon. It's fairly simple. You just add an acid to lightly pasteurizing whole milk, and it separates the curds from the whey, and then you press it through a cheesecloth, which means we need cheesecloths, of course. Liz has to buy those online. Can't wait. I've had palak paneer before. I've had mughar paneer before. Oh, God, delicious. I really like dairy products, as you can tell from my dietary choices. Stephen Nizik. Okay, folks, things are safe. The federal bureaucracy didn't spirit Sticks away to a black site after he archived the Trump federal bureaucracy article. Brother Doom, good morning, Sticks. How's the kid? Currently asleep with her mother. Upstairs, I believe. She's doing well. Hi, Leaf 11. Howdy, Sticks. How are you today? Excellent. Doing armed security at a police station, so a nice start of my day working an 8 to 4. Wonder if you have access to any interesting ammo types that are not normally commercially available. My Twitter DMs are open. Just saying, it's not illegal. Just can't generally purchase them from commercial dealers yourself. I'm on the lookout for those things as I prepare to return to the United States. I think I need a little bit more firepower. Interesting job. Yeah, paneer and curry is lovely. Try saag paneer, spinach. Yes, the palak paneer is with spinach. It's also on the milder side as far as Indian and Pakistani kinds of foods go. Monkey Bomb Studios, no Bannon show trial. I'm not going to bother covering the Steve Bannon thing because it's a non-issue. It's going to get appealed ad nauseum. January 6th committee can't keep it up much longer anyway. Liz Cheney's about to lose her job in August. And things will fall apart after the midterms. It's basically a dead issue. I love how they're going to try to force them to refer charges on Trump. Yes, except there's a Pentagon memo completely exonerating him. Whoops, that may not stick very easily. I'll be covering that tomorrow. Fasandu John. Sticks, you recently declared your interest in eating haggis. Whilst in the UK, I suggest also Stornoway black pudding, which is another Scottish delicacy I reckon would be up your particular alley. Yes, I want that eel dish that they eat in England, too. Yeah, blood pudding, and I want to try all of the interesting English dishes. Really, I'd like to go to Ireland, too, and try all of their food. I know the meme about Irish food is that you just basically put everything in a pot and boil it for 10 hours, but I don't know, it's comfy to me, and I love cabbage, so I'm going to the right part of the world when we go to our little vacation. Joker 1 over on Rumble. Sticks, are you going back to the land of Cho Zeldin permanently or just an extended visit? I live on 2 continents, so I'll be going back and forth. I find this comfy as well. I get the best of both worlds. I get all the cosmopolitan, sort of like Western European stuff here. And in the US, you get, huge gardens and land and stuff and guns. So I can't lose. High Leaf 11. Unfortunately, no. I have a Canik 9mm that is 18 plus 1, but I use a hollow point, so I don't get any special ammo. No, but as a security officer, you probably are capable of purchasing it. My screen just went out, and now it's back on. I touched something wrong down below. Generally speaking, if you are in security or in policing in general, you have access to things that normal civilians don't. It's legal to sell it to them. It's legal for them to own it, but they can't actually purchase it from the manufacturer. A crafty Huragok, Twiddler is the new word for groomer on Twitter. Yes, indeed, that was decided last night. In fact, one of my followers there may have been the first one to coin it. I don't know if they got it from 4chan or if 4chan got it from them. That would be excellent. Clankers on the cutting edge of trying to protect children in an age when children are often not protected properly. 87 Sparky, Scotland is better. Scotland is far left. Now, I prefer English politics, I will say. If I went to Scotland, I'd probably get accosted by Antifa. I'll get my haggis at an English restaurant that's just run by someone from Scotland. CC, not to get too close to personal life, but how do you and the lady plan on integrating your child into the internet and social media world? We've decided to not have her be part of the internet and social media world for an extended period of time. There's no need to integrate to that. Little kids should be little kids. Until they're like at the age of puberty and shit, when they're in the double-digit age range, they really should not be, at least alone, like unsupervised. They really shouldn't be on the internet. The internet should be for adults mainly. It'd make a better internet too. Without a bunch of little kids on the internet, you can be way edgier and nobody can bitch about it. Ninja Bearfish. Do you believe giants existed at one point in history? Do you also believe that our true history is hidden under the Vatican? Well, the Vatican does have quite a library that's limited access, so I don't know about that. No, giants did not exist, although there were races of people that phenotypically appear to have been far taller than their contemporaries in some cultures. Space School, howdy Tarl. Have you seen Mark of the Devil, 1970 with Udo Kier? It's about the Inquisition in 18th century Austria. I know you'll love it. No, but I'll make sure to look that up. F YouTube 10.2. Sticks, help! It shrunk 0.3 inches. Oh no. High Leaf 11. Nope, I don't get any ammo. I supply my own gun and ammo. But it is weird looking as an armed security guard in a police station. Lol. It's interesting that they would have security guards in a place where everyone already has guns. It's the least gun-free zone. That's why it's generally not attacked by psychopaths. You have a fairly easy job, I suppose. Anyway, we'll get to the first news story. First link from the New York Times. Remember, links in the description. You can follow along for yourself. Always analyze these articles for yourself and always use archives when possible. The New York Times. An attempted assault on Representative Lee Zeldin, the Republican nominee for governor of New York. He's facing off against Hochul. Won overwhelmingly, by the way, in his primary. I think he got about the same number of votes as number 2 and 3 in the race. And Andrew Giuliani was the number 2. Inflamed a debate over the state's public safety laws. Hours after a man accused of charging the candidate with a pointed weapon was released without bail. Yes, under New York law, the person who at least attempted to assault, if not kill, a gubernatorial candidate in the state of New York was released and didn't even have to post bail. This has, of course, become a meme in the last day. And it appears that the weapon was that was used was, you can get them online, I think. I don't know about state legality. It's literally just a little plastic thing, and, you put it around your fingers, and it has a couple of spikes on it, hardened plastic. And the idea is you can, poke someone's eyes out with it, essentially. You can probably rip open their jugular as well. It's effectively the plastic version of brass knuckles. And again, I don't know about state legality. Under normal circumstances, when you assault someone with a deadly weapon, especially if they're literally on the campaign trail, normally you get in trouble for that. But in the New York, I guess nobody cares. Imagine if it was Hochul. Imagine if the sitting governor were accosted with someone with a knife or with plastic knuckles or something. I have a feeling that they would have to have posted bail. I would have a feeling they probably wouldn't even be offered bail. But of course, he's not actually governor at the time, so obviously it's a little bit of a different story. There are some double standards within the so-called justice system. That's why people should begin taking justice into their own hands whenever possible, defending themselves, forming community watch, etc. Latin Hero 1818 sent 19.99, but no comment. Thank you anyway. That's a box of diapers. Amazon, I liked In Search of Giants just because they visited Bellow Falls, Vermont, across the river from my hometown. I got to play Recognize the Locale. I've been through Bellows Falls multiple times. Yeah, apparently attacking an individual who's running for the gubernatorial slot is perfectly okay in the state of New York because of their extremely wonky bail laws. Imagine you would literally attempt to kill someone or at least injure them, and you don't even have to post bail. I wonder why the crime rate is rising in parts of the United States. Could this have something to do with it? No, I'm sure no, there's no connection whatsoever. Fifi Brindisier 3 on Rumble. I will be supporting the Dutch farmers today in Victoria, Canada. I support the Dutch farmers as well, even if they did temporarily hold up my supply of caffeine. I had to switch to Red Bull there for a while. I don't mind Red Bull as a company, but the flavor of these is definitely better. And these are actually made in the Netherlands, so I'm supporting local businesses or some shit, I guess. By the way, I spritzed half a lemon into this. I've discovered actually lemon is better than lime when you mix it in. You also don't get the same reaction where it smells like bubble gum. I don't know what's in lime that lemon doesn't have that does this. It's something, though. I swear to God, it's true, by the way. I'm on my third energy drink. No wonder I can go for an hour and a half. Havercamp Harassment Chronicles. What's your stance on anti-homeless legislation? Oh, you mean like those anti-homeless spikes and things like that? I think that the state is responsible for people being homeless 9 times out of 10, and a lackadaisical medical infrastructure, specifically mental health, the other time out of 10. I think it's sad that there are people that are homeless, with the exception of hobos that don't care and choose to be homeless for one reason or another. Those people need help, and making it harder for them to sleep is not a good thing. What I believe is that centers of government, city halls, town halls, etc., those should be the homeless encampments. They shouldn't be able to do anything about homeless people who aren't breaking any other law and simply squatting on that land. Let the people see. The politicians have to go into work every single day in DC or anywhere else, into New York and Albany, at Montpelier, wherever they happen to be, and all those politicians have to see the homeless people. And they walk by and they get begged for donations, and then they look like a bunch of cunts when they don't give them a quarter or something like that. I think that would be good, and you should live stream it too. That way people will actually take action at some point. Midtown Michiganer. I'm worried that the public school systems will push for homeschooling to be illegal in order to continue grooming children. Do you think it's possible? No, there's no methodology as far as I know without a constitutional amendment by which you could ban homeschooling. Latin Hero 1818. Hi, Sticks. Love your work. Can you recommend some linguistics books? Also, what do you think of Shiba Inu? If you're talking about Shiba Coin, I have some of that. I don't have any linguistic books to recommend. I just took a course in linguistic anthropology, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what textbook we used. Very good course, though. Havercamp Harassment Chronicles. Tennessee just made it a felony for homeless people to camp. Yeah, no, there are such cases. They should rescind that law. I've been a few steps from homelessness myself a few times years ago in my life. It's not something that people feel proud about or something. Heaping insult onto injury, for people that are down and out when the government caused them usually to be down and out. Not necessarily the nicest thing to do in a society. Cam2425IA for the 9s over there on Rumble. Thank you. So yeah, that was the first piece of news. Now we've got a big one. Twitter enforces its ban on calling people groomers as anti-LGBTQ hate speech. Now, my understanding is that if you're just calling someone a name on Twitter or really any other site, you're harassing them. Why would it need to fall under hate speech? You're already running afoul of anti-bullying TOS on most mainline sites. So this really isn't necessary. What this is an extension of what Reddit did. And the problem is this. The problem, it's twofold. The first problem is you're effectively defending actual groomers. You're not just going after people that are saying that to be obtuse, that are they're talking about someone who happens to be gay, and so they call them a groomer or something. Okay, you're bullying that person. They're not doing anything against children. They're not perving on kids or something, and you're still calling them a groomer. That would be bullying. It's already covered under the TOS. The other problem, though, is that Twitter is now justifying the pink-haired freakazoids in saying that somehow people who are attracted to little kids and are creepy and perverted are part of LGBTQ. And I've seen so many people, gay people, lesbian people, bisexual people. I know that that's now a Byzantine term because, magenda or whatever, who cares? People who are trans, calling them out on this, getting actually very angry because it insinuates, even if this is not the point, it insinuates that there is some connection between grooming or molesting children and being part of the non-straight bubble, you could call it, the idpol block, really a commie block at this point more than anything else. But that's not what most people using the term are saying. The problem with Twitter rules, as with Reddit rules, is that people who are not using it in a bullying way, but simply indicating a belief that someone is grooming because they are fucking grooming, will be banned just the same. Twitter is effectively siding here with child predators. It doesn't surprise me. They were being openly pushed to do this by the craptivists at Pink News and other groups, probably the ADL as well, sending an email. Oh my God, shit. You get all these maps here, part of the plus of LGBTQ plus, and you're discriminating against them. You wouldn't want a legal suit for discrimination, would you? What do you think the plus in that ever-changing acronym actually stands for? Wait, how much further can you go beyond you're lesbian, gay, bi? Okay, that covers the orientation side. Trans, so that covers a plethora of people, male to female to male, whatever. And Q, so you're just not sure or something. You don't know what you are. That pretty much covers the bases. What's the plus for? It's not the A for asexual, because some people used to put an A in there. In fact, sometimes there is. In fact, shouldn't LGBTQ Nation be sued for not having an A in there? What are asexuals are invisible to them? People who clearly aren't perving on kids because they don't have a sex drive. Where's the A in there? I call on you to change your entire website name and put the A in there, because otherwise you're leaving people out. Nola Esparza, anyway, can you send me a case of those 9 energy drinks? I'm not sure. The food importation laws in some countries can be draconian. It's like when I go back to the United States, I really want to bring a bunch of snacks for my family and stuff, but I have to go through it like item by item to make sure that I'm not breaking any rules, because you can be fined upwards of $10,000 per item if you're doing it wrong. Like try to get a Kinder Egg into the United States. If they discover that there's a Kinder Egg in the luggage, whoopsie daisy, you just bought somebody a car, because it is $10,000 per Kinder Egg. Here you can get them whenever you want. James Bullock sent 99 cents without a comment. Thank you anyway. But yes, Twitter is now banning people for using the term groomer to label people that are grooming children. This is considered to be very, very pro-love and tolerance by them. This week, Twitter confirmed that the term groomer is banned as hate speech on the platform under its hateful conduct policy. Again, broadly banned. So using it to label someone who is literally interacting inappropriate with small children is going to be the same as if some idiot is just saying it to someone because they happen not to be straight. They're going to be banned all of the same. It doesn't matter what the context is. The other problem, of course, is bot algorithms. A bot on YouTube or Twitter or whatever doesn't know the difference between the context of it being used as a slur for someone who's clearly not engaged in inappropriate behavior with kids and someone who clearly is, and they're being called out for it. They'll both end up getting banned. Facing calls for the social media company to follow the lead of other platforms like Reddit, Facebook, and TikTok, which ban the term when used to imply a link between the community and pedophilia, a Twitter spokesperson sent the following statement to the Daily Dot. And, well, we're going to combat abuse. Yeah, we're not going to allow this to be said on the platform. Again, algorithms will sort through this and ban a bunch of people who did nothing wrong. It will be used to shield all of the pedophiles that Twitter was shielding anyway. You'll remember when they hid behind 230 because there was literal child porn on the website, and they refused to take it down even though legally queried. And years later, they were sued by the victims. And they said, no, under 230, we're not publishers. We're just platforms. We can't be held accountable for the fact that it was there. We're really sorry that we didn't remove it. We let, millions of people see and potentially download it, and thus technically we're trafficking in this illicit material. But under 230, you can't do anything about it. I find that a real stretch of the meaning of Section 230, by the way. I think we need a federal investigation into Twitter on some of these things. That leaf, the more big tech and others try to block words like groomer, the more resistance will come from everyone, both on the internet and in the real world. Yeah, but that resistance won't be on Twitter because they'll ban people. People have fronted the term twiddler as a substitute, much like predator on Reddit, because they've banned the term. I wonder what the term on Facebook or TikTok are. TikTok, I would think, would be the big problem because there's so many tweens on there, dancing around and doing shit like that. I'm glad they're on TikTok and not on YouTube anymore because it unclutters the fucking site. YouTube should go back to being 13 plus anyway. They should kick all the little kids off the site. Don't just block them out and put them in the kids' YouTube section. Just ban them off the site entirely. Tell them to fuck off. Go to TikTok. Go to our competitors. Nobody cares. Nobody needs to see 12-year-olds doing makeup tutorials anyway. What's the fucking point? Treasure Troller, Clank for Bannon. He'll be fine. He's being completely dismissive of the contempt of Congress charge for a reason. Kalashnikov, people thinking that property has some mystical value beyond its function of privacy and shelter is ridiculous. If the neighbor wants to erect a 30-foot tall granite schlong, that doesn't nullify my property's function. Yeah, unless it's violating specifically the ability of your property to function as intended. Yeah, you should be able to do whatever you want. Zen Toaster, please clap Jeb Bush. Soleil 333, well, banning groomer makes sense for them since they are needing to be sued to remove CP by the victim themselves. Yes, I brought that up. People don't even remember this. A couple of years ago, they got sued by victims of trafficking, and they hid behind 230. Oh, no, we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't take the material down despite a legal query saying, hey, I was underage and this video or this picture or whatever is still up. They didn't do anything. That's willfully ignoring the problem. Winston Fujimori, it's confirmed Baked Alaska is a federal informant. I thought that was common knowledge for years, actually. Jam, can you elaborate on the ways the left is devouring itself? You can clearly see they are not a homogenous ideology. Yeah, well, this is probably a great example of that. This and also like TERFs versus radfems and stuff. I mean, TERFs versus non-TERF, like feminist ideology. Do women exist? Is it a malleable term or something? That's the big one, I think. Race comes in as well. You'll notice the East Asians are being devoured by leftoids now and told that they have to deal with the fact that affirmative action means they won't get into a good college. JM, they want to stop people like James Lindsay calling indoctrinating 5-year-olds to queer theory also grooming. Yeah, no, I think that it's more about the fact that there are some people that are using it as a pejorative just in regular argument against people that are clearly not interested in children. No, there's no reason to believe that they are. The problem is that a blanket ban like this is not going to discriminate between that situation and a situation in which someone is referring to a politician or whatever as a groomer because they are having inappropriate reactions with kids. For instance, Joe Biden, sniffing small children, showering naked with his, 9 or 11-year-old daughter or something like that. A pattern of behavior that's clearly at least dubious, if not outright illegal in some cases. And they'll be banned for bringing that up. Twitter has decided to die on this hill, I suppose. ZI12, I remember years back they tried to push incest, but I guess they stick with pedophiles. Yeah, they sort of let that one go. So I guess it's okay as long as the politician is screwing somebody else's kid, they'll be protected by Twitter. Garrett Thomas, hey, from Liberal Town, USA, a.k.a. Maine. Have you seen V for Vendetta? Yes. Been watching that recently, thinking about how we're not far off from that now. Good ending, by the way, to that. Outtas85, most important question, what is the best breakfast meat? Bacon, sausage, ham, or other? I'm going to take sausage, actually. Bacon is good, ham is fine. Sausage really does it. Highleaf11, all child lovers get the wood chipper feet first because if they harm a child like that, they deserve the punishment. Yeah, it's interesting. I thought that was pretty universally agreed upon by society to be a no-go zone. Apparently, there are people that think differently, including a large number of tech corporations. I wonder if the CEOs ever went to Epstein Island. Hint, hint. Smoke Daddy, house bubble partially due to investors driving market. Bubble will pop, but when? Only investors can afford shorting stock long-term. Recession equals only investors have the capital to buy when the bubble does pop. They'll do it again. Yeah, you're going to see more compacting of wealth. Steve Pepperoni's Komainu token to the moon. Sounds like a shit coin to me. Okay, now we're going to get into something else. And disclaimer before I even bother to bring this up, I'm not going to drag the dude. I'm going to give a fair analysis that will probably piss some people off when I give it. With regards to the allegations against Jack Kosciarella, you'll know him as the dude I debated on gun control, actually, not that long ago, and curb stomped him because he literally knows nothing about firearms or the history of the Second Amendment. He's been blamed. Apparently, there's a Reddit thread here. And a link, again, links in the description. You can go through this yourself. I haven't archived this one because it's all there. There's a bunch of Reddit shit that's actually like a year old almost now. The allegation is that Jack Kosciarella departed Dartmouth, where he was going to school, I suppose, for Columbia, specifically because of these allegations, number one. And number two, the allegation being that he was effectively a date rapist. Now, I looked through these images and some of the links. I don't really use Reddit, but I'm capable of accessing Reddit pages for what little it's worth because the site is fucking worthless. And here's my initial thought. This seems like a political attack. I'm not seeing any actual evidence of Jack Kosciarella doing anything inappropriate. And therefore, I'm not going to drag the dude. I'm not going to get rope-a-doped into another Me Too thing. And some people say, well, if Jack knew that some Republican were getting Me Too'd, he'd be the first person to throw them under the bus. Absolutely. But I'm not a leftist. I actually have principles. Yes, indeed. Jack Kosciarella has dragged Matt Gaetz. I think he weighed in on the Boebert non-scandal there that, what was it? Wasn't it the Midas touch? I think he's associated with them. I can't remember which group was bringing up her being like a prostitute or something. They've done this to a million different people within politics and content creation and all of that shit. The person that fucks kids, the person rapes people, the person, I don't know, is into autoerotic asphyxia and likes to choke down logs of shit. Weird shit. And he will jump down their throats. To be clear, I know that he's weighed in multiple times on Matt Gaetz, who clearly at this point appears to be squeaky clean because the investigation has led to absolutely nothing. But just because a person is a hypocrite, if they're getting Me Too'd, is not a reason to endorse the Me Too witch trials, because that's really what they've devolved into. The problem is that the initial reckoning of Me Too was basically the entertainment industry grooms young women. They come in, they're looking for a job, they're fresh out of college or whatever, and on the casting couch, they get fucked. And they get coerced into it. They get promised a film role, or they get told they'll be blacklisted if they don't suck the dick or something like that. It was a commercial sort of thing. It was Weinstein and people like that, or Epstein. Young women especially, and young men to an extent, this happens in Hollywood too, getting sexually attacked by people. And that because they were rich and because they had effectively blackmailed or rope-a-doped them into a career move that would benefit them, they never got into any trouble. That was the initial Me Too revelation. And it's believable, it's plausible, it makes sense, maybe Cosby aside at this point. Though, the problem is this. After Me Too became successful at taking down certain billionaires, like people like Weinstein, other women who have exes that they don't like, or people that they didn't like but interacted with, and they could nominally prove they were ever in proximity to them, people who had a business associate that they just soured on, realized that they too could ride that gravy train straight into a civil case where they didn't need to prove guilt and make a lot of money, straight into destroying people's career. This is what almost happened to Johnny Depp with Amber Heard. She made up stories about his improprieties that were not capable of being proven, and he was immediately shafted for years by the entertainment industry. He had to launch a multi-million-dollar lawsuit in order to restore his good name, and now he's riding high. The average person doesn't have that ability. So when Jack Kosciarella is being claimed by people on a Reddit forum of all places to have fucked people while they were passed out or whatever at Dartmouth, and that's why he left, while it's possibly true, I'm not being given any evidence. I don't have any pictures of him doing anything. I don't even have evidence that he ever met some of these people. What the hell am I supposed to think? So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully he'll take this to the bank, that I actually have standards, number one. And number two, maybe next time, Jack, maybe next time Matt Gaetz or somebody like that is blamed for having put their hands on somebody and there's literally no evidence whatsoever under the sun, maybe don't try to white knife for people and have a little bit of, I don't know, self-realization, self-actualization. Because now you've been Me Too'd too in many such cases. So I'm not going to drag the dude. Old Man Jenkins 23 gave $50, thank you, and said wooden doors. I get the reference, but I cannot elaborate on that any further on YouTube, just so that we are aware. Michael Cricklow, Lee Zeldin predicted his attacker would be immediately released because of bail reform. Why do you support this revolving door policy? I do not support that policy. I don't know where you got the idea that I do. Gus, $1, no comment, thank you. Nice Darth Vader avatar there as well. Lehman Russ, FYI, the FBI stats on self-defense shootings is between 500,000 and 2 million cases in 2019 or 18. Please use the stats for debates with dummies. The stats really are misleading, though. And some of those, you're not talking about self-defense shootings. You're talking about self-defense instances of a gun being used. And most of those, the gun was never unholstered. A person reported an attempted mugging or something, and they told the police, hey, by the way, they saw my gun because I moved my shirt to the side, and they ran off. That counts as a self-defense gun usage. It's also, unfortunately, illegal in several states situationally. If somebody comes out as plaintiff and says, he brandished a firearm at me, all I wanted to do was ask for a stick of gum. Thankfully, most states aren't that far gone. That would count as a self-defense usage. Self-defense shootings, much less common, but still much more common than offensive uses of guns. I mean, in the sense of actually firing at a target, whether you hit it or not. Logan Davis, I'm finally here for live. I just subbed on Rumble. Excellent. Winston Fujimori, I'm going to the UK next month to watch Warski and a YouTuber MMA bout. Does the UK require a Vax pass? Hypothetically, if I have a fake pass and get caught, would I go to jail or just be refused entry? I don't know if they have such a requirement. I don't believe so at this point. Technically, if the fake pass was made in some other country, you may be refused entry, but how are they going to tell that it's real or not? I don't think that they have much time to check them. Have you seen how little time they spend looking at your goddamn passport when you get to the airport? They look at the passport briefly, stamp it. They don't read the dates on the prior entries or anything like that. They might ask you a question about why you're here, and you just mumble, oh, I'm here to see family, and they wave you through. That's European security at the borders, just to be clear. For Americans traveling the first time to a foreign country, if it happens to be in Western Europe, don't worry, you won't have any problems. And maybe the French might give you a hassle. Oh, you got any cheese on you? Whoops. 10 years for you. So yes, the third news of the day, Jack Cosciarella is alleged to have raped people, but the allegations don't have any actual evidence. While it would be hilarious to drag the dude for political reasons, because he's a severe anti-gunner, he's part of the blue checkmark crowd. I know that probably 99% of you fucking hate people like that. I'm not going to be the person to do that because I don't have any additional evidence. I don't have any corroboration. There's no video. There's no photograph. There's no witness. There's no report to the police. So you decide to put it on Reddit, but you don't make a report out to the police, right? Isn't that a red flag? I think that it is. He may not give that same credence to anyone else if they're vaguely on the right wing of politics, if they get Me Too'd, but he'll get that deference from me. Again, I actually have standards. Believe it or not, some people probably not. How many people are watching on Rumble, by the way? The viewer count is 500 people watching on Rumble, so we're already at 11 Biden loser units. Excellent. Joker 1, is absent operational cortex worth discussing her daily imbecilities, or are we just playing into her game? Now, people know that she's a moron, so I would ignore Ocasio-Cortez. She gets the occasional 2 minutes of fame, and that's about all she has to her job description. Trash Panda, California and Newsom are certainly going full bore on gun control. They're going after all manufacturers and transfers, including private ones. If I were a gun manufacturer, I would tell them to shove it, and I would just never send anyone to the court because California doesn't have any legal authority outside of the state. Saberjet, EU security is so lax. When I went to Latvia, they didn't do any level of check and waved me around at the airport. Yeah, Dutch airport is like a 1 out of 10 on the security severity. You go to the United States, you'll think that you're in a police state. It's a little bit different. Next story, keep the antidepressants away. New study says chemical imbalance in brain isn't causing depression. Yes, the old meme about there being a chemical imbalance of your serotonin, and that was causing you to be depressed or manic or whatever. It turns out that there's absolutely no goddamn evidence for it whatsoever, and they can't establish any causal link, and they don't even know why antidepressants sometimes work. Now, of course, because of the medical misinfo policy, even though this is a peer-reviewed study from an accredited university medical hospital, because of terms of service on YouTube and probably on Twitch, I can't tell you to put the antidepressants down or question in any way their efficacy. What I can say is that the study did come to that basic conclusion. London. For 3 decades, people have been deluged with information suggesting that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, namely an imbalance of a brain chemical called serotonin. However, our latest research review shows the evidence does not support it. Although first proposed in the 60s, the serotonin theory of depression started to be widely promoted by the pharmaceutical industry in the 1990s. Yeah, much like with ADHD and being on the spectrum as opposed to you either are or are not autistic. There's been a little bit of expansion there for pill sales in association with its efforts to market new ranges of antidepressants known as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. You know, those things that half the school shooters happen to be on. So yes, very interesting. It's almost like maybe sales drop, so they're like, fuck, we'll give the shtick up and we'll move on to the next kind of pill that we're going to give people. In our next breakthrough study, 86ED, do you believe that most people are bad or inherently good? Also been watching for a while. Love the content. I don't use objective terms like good or evil for most human behaviors. It's really what is helpful or survivable and what's not. And we tend to extrapolate on that our moral systems. I believe that most people, therefore, are fundamentally good in most situations until they get under stress. What we call evil tends to be just biology out of place in a world of culture. So we've created a bunch of very helpful but ultimately biologically aberrant constructs. Like there's really the idea, for example, you're walking down the street, you've got trash with you. The most sensible thing, because from a biological standpoint, you shouldn't carry 10 pounds of fucking trash around, you toss it to the side. Culture says no, if everyone does that, we're overloaded with trash. In order to have a proper society, which is ultimately better beneficial to that and every other person, you put the trash in the waste paper. In the waste basket, in the waste bin, disposal. That works better, but it's not technically biologically normal. This goes for sex, it goes for indulgence into food, stealing, and everything else under the sun. That's good or evil. It's effectively biology out of place. We are cave people that have developed culture over the last few tens of thousands of years. Biologically, we're still living in the fucking cave, wanting to hit people over the head. That's the truth. Crispy13, you are literally a retard if you think that actual evil behavior is just misplaced biology or whatever bullshit you just said, Sticks. LMAO. Well, find me an example of something that is labeled aberrant and evil that doesn't conform to the basic premise, in which a biological drive, at least in some roundabout way, is out of step with culture or with linguistics in some way, communication, things that came well after genetic evolution was already happening in humans. You won't find any examples. It fits perfectly. Andrew Pinkham, we've seen voter fraud in 2,000 meals. Why are our intelligence agencies oblivious to this, or are they complicit? Well, honk honk, assuming that were true, honk honk, yeah, they'd be complicit. Twerking fish, hate SSRIs all you will, and fair enough, honestly, but I haven't had any panic attacks caused by lockdowns, by the way, in a while. Yeah, and that's fine. It works for many people. The study doesn't say it doesn't work. It just says that the basis on which the principle was promoted doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. The idea of the chemical imbalance in and of itself doesn't actually exist, or doesn't seem to be. Seors, have you seen LAPD no longer enforcing high-capacity magazine ban thanks to SCOTUS ruling? It's all over shooting channels, but not on MSM. Oh, no, I haven't seen that. That's good. Hopefully they non-enforce in Vermont, too. I'd like to have a 110-round drum for something chambered 22 at some point. Then get a Gatling crank. Be good for cutting down small trees, too. Next news story, and I'm losing my screen again. I don't know exactly what's wrong here. I'm touching the wrong cord, I suppose. Something must be loose down there. Twitter says uncertainty with Elon Musk is hurting its business. Aw, Twitter is sad. You're defending child molesters at the moment. New York, CNN Business. Twitter's battle with Elon Musk is weighing on its business. The company on Friday reported revenue of $1.18 billion for the 3 months ending in June, a decline of 1% from the prior year. Twitter attributed the sales drop in part to uncertainty related to Musk's pending acquisition, which he is currently fighting to get out of. Could it have to do with your shitty rules? Could it have to do with you alienating huge numbers of users? No, it's just Elon Musk. He's the sole arbiter of Twitter's stock prices, apparently. He's so powerful that he alone determines the cost. And I have to reconnect my screen really quickly. Just a moment. All right, hopefully that'll be better. Yeah, doesn't seem to be having that problem. It was it kept blinking out over and over again there, and therefore I couldn't see chat. How am I supposed to read the super chats? Yeah, so Twitter is blaming Elon Musk for their problems, which is interesting because after the merger acquisition was first announced, their stock skyrocketed. They made huge amounts of money. By the way, that would have been a good time to get out of your Twitter stock. You probably should have known that Elon Musk had something up his sleeve. Yeah, like he's actually going to pay 150% over spot, not try to wiggle his way down to pay a lower price, save a few $1 billion, especially during a moment economically when you had to know that Tesla's stock was probably going to fall. We've got Bidenomics to deal with. Of course it was going to happen. A crafty Huragok, do you think it matters what Biden does? Because many things the media accuse Trump of Biden actually did and now don't cover or are backpedaling on. No, he could shit on the floor next time that he's on stage and they would talk about how he was, I don't know, taking up organic gardening. He's a very healthy president. Look at that bowel movement. They'd probably try it. Fire down below. Do you think the MSM will ever admit we are in a recession? When and if that happens, methinks that's when crypto will hit its floor. Agreed, I think. And yes, there have been recession mumblings already. We're probably already in one. But it does take time for them to compile the numbers. The Fed's estimation is only that, an estimate, even though it's actually fairly reliable. And it would be really, really weird if we weren't in a recession right now. They have to get the real numbers in and do the number crunching with all their fucking accountants first. The Grizzly, God, you hope Trump does half of what your first video of the day reported. I hope he just fires the entire federal government at this point. Screw him. Well, that would be probably helpful for the economy. I don't think he'll go that far. Again, mild reformer. Mild reformer who's a bit riled up, though, right now because of the honking that happened. Joshua Perez, thoughts on gay marriage and the social theocrat conservatives raging about it? I've supported gay marriage rights for a long time because it's just a state property contract. It has nothing to do with religion or morality in any way, shape, or form, so I never really had a problem with it. I don't care about what the theocrats say because they represent a viewpoint that is out of step with basic reality. Michael Cricklow, you mentioned you supported bail reform in your July 6, 2022 Wednesday live show. Check it out. Either way, glad you changed your stance. False. I didn't change my stance. Bail reform is not the same as saying, hey, someone just engaged in a violent crime, attempted potential assassination, and therefore shouldn't have bail. That's not reform. By bail reform, I'm saying that a person should not suffer excessive bail, and that depends on the crime. It's literally in the Constitution. A person, for instance, who didn't pay their parking ticket too long should not have to pay $10,000 in bail. A person who attempted a non-violent crime like shoplifting or something shouldn't be paying thousands of dollars in bail. It is excessive bail. It's already unconstitutional. The founders would not have found it particularly odd for a $50,000 bail to be imposed on someone who just attempted to assassinate a public official. There's a difference between violent crimes, especially those with a clear-cut victim, and all other crimes. Yolt Nick, hey, Tarl, your live a little while back had me reminiscing about AP Bio and Mrs. Rayford. Yes. Hey, Nick, made my girlfriend and I cheesy garlic bread. It just wasn't the same. We'll have to catch up next time you're in the USA. We've got Nick in the house, everyone. My friend from high school, actually. I didn't know that you watched the live streams. Yes, garlic bread. I remember those very, very well. All of those wonderful nights with Mrs. Rayford's food. And unfortunately, I don't know if she's still alive, considering her weight and her age. I don't think so. Last time I saw her was 2012, maybe, or 2011. And by that point, she was using a walker. So I have a feeling she's not there. Yes, Nick, definitely. When we're back in the United States, it's go time. I'm going to be making stuffed shells tonight, so we'll be competing. So yes, that's Nick from high school. Jesus, I didn't know I didn't even have any clue that he watched the live streams. Surprise. Joshua Perez, the ban everything conservatives are SJWs. Yes, absolutely. Moralism comes in two different wings. It's one retarded bird with two deformed wings. You've got moralists like theocratic types, and then you have the pink-haired freak crowd. Yeah, same thing to me. And if the right wing goes in that direction, you'll start thinking that I'm a liberal. It'll be very funny. Iran Nuclear, check out the Chiappa Rhino revolver. They have very low felt recoil and muzzle flip. I've seen that revolver, I think, actually. I'm going to get a 357. Chloe Collins sent $9.99. No comment. Thank you very much. All right, we can go to the next story. We finally got through the last round of super chats. So yes, Twitter is very sad. Elon Musk is causing their stock to crumble. I totally believe this, by the way. It has nothing to do with their own decisions, like banning the use of the term groomer to label child molesters. Next, we have something that I covered this morning, a radical plan for Trump's second term. It's radical, so that means you should be scared, by the way. Former President Trump's top allies are preparing to radically reshape the federal government if he is reelected, purging potentially thousands of civil servants, bureaucrats, and filling career posts with loyalists to him and his America First ideology. People involved in the discussions tell Axios. Now, he wants to parse down the bureaucracy by a reasonably marginal amount. I support him fully. I just wish he would go further. Has there been a president who has not relieved large numbers of mid and upper level bureaucrats from their positions and replaced them with people that are more loyal? No, there has. Biden did that. Trump did that when he first got elected. Fucking Clinton, fucking Obama, everyone does that. There's not a modern president who hasn't. You've enabled it. By the way, the liberals have enabled this to happen by creating the expansive bureaucracy. This is effectively similar to what Reagan did around 82. In his first term, he did a great job of freezing budgets and doing some selective cutting of different positions, trying to cut through some of the pasty spaghetti ball that is bureaucracy. And he didn't do a huge amount, but it still led to great economic times. Helped with the recession. We could do that again, by the way. This is not taking a hatchet to a bunch of different agencies. This is getting people in there that are willing to deal with a smaller budget and smaller staff. How the hell is that a bad thing? Calling them civil servants does not make them useful. The average IRS agent should be fired. The average FBI agent should be fired. I would go way, way further. I'd say that we need to take a hatchet to it, cut out half the agencies entirely, compound the rest of them, and then shave their budgets too. It would be anarchy. There'd be a million so-called civil servants out of work if I were ever president of the United States. Trump's talking about a few thousand people. Okay, you save a lot of money and you definitely save a lot of regulation. If anything, it doesn't go far enough. They're trying to scare people into not voting for Trump by calling it radical. Radical my ass. You want radical, you vote for someone like me for the president of the United States. You'll think that Trump was a goddamn Bernie Sanders socialist. Leftoids. Skycloud Rain, you mentioned states like Wisconsin will be defortified, yet the other day, Election Commission told the legislature there they will defy new rules. Oh, they can defy the rules if they want and get arrested then. Chloe Collins, thanks for everything you do, Sticks. I always look forward to your videos. Your honesty helps my crushing depression and makes me feel less alone. I live in New York. New York, outside of New York City, is pretty nice. Make sure get more hikes in, get a lot more sun. That tends to help. And hot showers. Mega Trucker 65. Energy drinks are shown to cause liver cirrhosis, so be careful with that poison. Well, then I won't live past 40. Well, at least I'll never have to get old, right? Rob S. Favorite conspiracy theory? I don't like the term conspiracy theory. If you're talking about what would generally be labeled one, probably the JFK assassination involving multiple gunmen. And by the way, I think that it did. Aspartame brain tumor. I respect you more than most people, and you don't even know how to ride a bike. There's aspartame, by the way, in this. That is the flavoring agent. Pashi Senpai, Trump is pretty radical, but in the 90s slang way. Yeah, he would have been considered a little bit out there, like maybe in the 2000s or something. Today, he's considered to be real off the wall. He's not doing anything. A lot of his fans didn't like that he didn't do enough. Well, fucking, you can't have it both ways. Next story. Representative Lucy McBath. I did not archive this because some of you have Twitters and you should definitely weigh in on this. It's been ratioed all to hell, just to be clear. With assault rifles, and keep in mind, this is a representative who's currently talking about guns as part of the back and forth about gun legislation. With assault rifles, exit wounds can be a foot wide. The victim's skull explodes on impact, organs rupture, bones shatter. The shards serve as shrapnel and tear tissue to pieces. There's a reason why we never see the images after a mass murder. Many of the bodies no longer exist. I've seen images of plenty of mass murders, including those that involve the uber scary AR-15. To be clear, there is no round you can put in an AR-15 that will actually cause an exit wound of that kind. There are a handful of 50 BMG weapons, and most of them bolt action, I believe, that if you use explosive rounds, they could probably approach the kind of damage we're talking about here. I know of no specific mass shooting that's actually used a weapon like that. AR-15 is sometimes used. Kel-Tec, certain tactical pistols, shotguns in some cases. Look at what happened to Columbine. One of those, I think, was an Uzi. The AR-15 is not capable of causing that kind of wound. The reason that you don't see images after school shootings is because of privacy. Specifically, none of the parents will let them show images of their dead children. They won't show them to the media. The police won't release them. Of course, you're not getting any images. It's little kids that have been massacred. They have privacy even in death. That's the reason. Mike Oxlittle, pork roll and scrapple are clearly the breakfast meats. Have you had either one? I have no clue what either of those are. Huns with guns. You guys keep simping for alphabet people while they continue to vote 70% Democrat and big government. I'm religious, by the way. Alphabet people, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Id poll crowd? Plenty of white id pollers, just to be clear. Yolked Nick again. Yep, been watching your channel for a long time since you did that interview with the Fallen State. Also, White Monster Zero is the best energy drink. Nick, for you, I will definitely ship some of these back. I swear to you, they are better. They're also slightly more powerful for per ounce. They are better than Monster White. And that is a stretch. Those are pretty fucking tasty. Thinking about taking that or Red Bull or something and putting it in an ice cube tray out in the freezer at some point, or even get like popsicle molds. And imagine on a hot day, you've got your caffeine, but you've also got a popsicle. Michael Cricklow. I happen to be a bail bondsman in Virginia. Thanks for elaborating. Bail in California tends to be excessive. Virginia is quite fair. Again, it depends. I think partially it depends on the court, sadly. Don't even bring up bail bonds around me or I'll start talking about walnuts and Fred Herbert. Look that up sometime. Bail bonds prank call. If you want to really have a thrill, you'll go down a rabbit hole and 5 days later you'll get done watching prank calls. Sparky, Lee Harvey Oswald couldn't drive a car. He probably also couldn't shoot the way that he supposedly shot. By the way, you probably are hearing the infant upstairs having a little bit of an issue. She's probably hungry. I don't know. Something like that. Joker1 on Rumble. As a civil servant, we have auditors who review if I'm doing my job correctly, but they never ask the most important question. Is the job I'm worth doing? In most cases, no. Yeah, exactly. The remnant civil servants, bureaucratic people, should be given something actually reasonable to do. It's sort of like with cops, with police reform. If you stop them from busting down the door at 3 a.m. at Harold the Happy Hippie's house because someone smelled weed or thought he had a bag of coke, police would be more respected, less shot at, and then they'd be safer. You'd need fewer cops. They could be better paid. They could be better trained. They'd be more respected by the community. They'd do a way better job if you just get rid of the non-crime enforcement. Rob S. JFK is a good one. If MK Ultra, my apologies. I think the trees are fucking again. If MK Ultra was happening in the early 50s, any idea what they're doing now to the public? Can't wait for the midterm live. Yes, the midterm live will be great. We have several oft-mentioned guests aboard if we can figure out how to do guests. Of course, Sleazy P. Martini being the co-host. Just a second here. It's slightly distracting. Yeah, just saying. They're probably doing everything to the public. They're probably putting drugs in the water supply by now. Mickelvo, Lucy probably watched her first WH-40K videos about Space Marines and their assault bolters for the first time and thought they were real. Bless her. Yeah, Warhammer. I was thinking she might have played Fallout and she got the Bloody Mess perk and thought it was real with Lincoln's repeater or something. Skycloud Rain. You see that goofball Michael Moore proposed a 28th Amendment to the Congress to replace the Second Amendment. Go read it for a laugh. I did see that. That was funny. Deny if they did show the aftermath, Dems would call it glorifying the violence. Yes, exactly. They can't show the aftermath of school shootings because then, oh my God, you're going to cause more school shootings. So what the fuck are these people complaining about? Huns with guns. I'm not religious, I meant. Oh, okay. Point taken. Eric writes, there's nothing more radical than creator-granted rights. Big mommy government isn't good for anything but headaches. Yes, government should be very small, small enough to not fit in your wallet. Blood right on Rumble. I was in rehab with crackhead Frank Biden. Everyone called him Frank and Beans because how the perv wore his pants. Elitist assholes said he studied with Carl Sagan. I'm hoping that story is true that you're telling me. That would be hilarious. Next story. This is by Brett Stevens from the New York Times. This is a doozy. I was wrong about Trump voters. This entire article, please, if you only read one of the links in the description, one of these articles, please read this one by Brett Stevens. He's an opinion columnist there. The worst line I ever wrote as a pundit, yes, I know it's a crowded field. That's like every line you write, basically, was the first line I ever wrote about the man who would become the 45th president. If by now you don't find Donald Trump appalling, you're appalling. This opening salvo from August 2015 was the first in what would become dozens of columns denouncing Trump as a unique threat to American life, democratic ideals, and the world itself. I regret almost nothing about what I said about the man and his close minions, but the broad swipe at his voters caricatured them and blinkered me. Here you see the legacy media setting up. If the effective long story short of this article is, I shouldn't have insulted you poor retarded Trump voters. But I said you shouldn't vote for him now, and of course I'll insult you if you do. Please see the light. Please don't vote for Donald Trump in 2024. Please don't let Orange Man come back. Then I'll call you names more. This is sort of like the going back on the deplorables thing, where the legacy media is pretending from their penthouses and gated communities that they didn't just viscerally hate the average Trump voter because they saw them as suspenders-wearing half-toothless hicks. And that's really the truth. That's the way in which they regarded them. This is also part of the reason why Donald Trump won in the first place. People were being treated in a dismissive manner by the coastal liberal elite sort of crowd, and so they decided to strike back and they voted for Trump. This is why I suspect they will do it again in 2024, assuming he's the nominee, and he likely will be. That ought to have been the first question to ask myself. When I looked at Trump, I saw a bigoted blowhard making one ignorant argument after another. What Trump's supporters saw was a candidate whose entire being was a proudly raised middle finger at a self-satisfied elite that had produced a failing status quo. Why did you wait until the eve of Trump potentially announcing a 24 bid before you apologized to people and made this article? It's because you didn't expect Donald Trump to seriously run again. You thought that the J6 committee would actually indict him. You thought that the system would actually be able to keep him out and that you would be able to censor him out of existence and that by now he'd just be sulking at Mar-a-Lago. You thought you could defeat Donald Trump. Now that you realize midterms are approaching, we're going to lose big time, J6 goes away, and Trump is probably going to announce a presidential candidacy, alarm bells are ringing in these people's head. What they're trying to do is uncouple the Trump voter from Trump. It's as simple as that, simple psychology. Well, I'm sorry I called you names. I apologize. I take the knee before you. I was wrong, liberal coastal elite as I am. But Trump is a bad guy. Please don't support him anymore. I know that you're better than that. I'll praise you if you don't vote for Trump. Like I'm not going to dump on literally any other independent candidate that jumps into the fray and not astroturf some corporate moron like a Nikki Haley sort. Oh yeah, it's very, very interesting. It's hilarious. Yeah, apparently Howard Stern is being spammed there. Howard Stern's capabilities ended long ago. He had the opportunity to get into politics, and he decided to turn it down, which is wise, considering how much money he was making. And that'll never happen. He's grown old and haggard and sold out, unfortunately. He now supports censorship very much. Silverblade 5, the federal registrar, is a place where people can comment on proposed federal regulations. It's not moderated to any great extent. Don't tell Trump or Alex Jones. Yes, I think that I've left comments there on a few of their laws before. So yes, Brett Stevens is pretending to be apologetic towards the Trump voting base. Please just don't do it again. Anything but that. I'll leave you alone. I promise. I'll love you forever. I actually love Republicans, says fucking New York Times. We love Republicans. We just wish you'd go back to being pathetic losers like George W. Next one. U.S. Supreme Court rules against Biden in key immigration case. Justices decline to freeze lower court order that blocked officials from changing deportation guidance from the Trump era. So Trump has been injuncted once again. They've decided, no, you can't do this shit while we're considering this. We'll take up the case at some point. Don't worry about it too much. The Supreme Court will not allow the Biden administration to implement an immigration policy that prioritizes deportation of people arriving in the U.S. illegally who pose the greatest public safety risk. That is misleading, just to be clear. The court's order late on Thursday leaves the policy frozen nationwide for now. The vote was 5-4, with conservative Amy Coney Barrett joining the liberals, which is fucking hilarious, in saying they would have allowed the Biden administration to put in place the guidance. By the way, that means that all 4 female justices on the court were the ones that voted against this. Just saying. The court also announced it would hear arguments in the case saying they would be in late November. So Biden's fucked basically until the after midterms. The order is the first public vote by Jackson since she was confirmed to the U.S. Senate and joined the court on 30th of June following the retirement of Breyer. So yes, what they want in the Biden administration is effectively pseudo-amnesty. They want to shift the priority of deportation to a very narrow number of people who pose the greatest risk, even though you have the resources, if you have a proper border policy, to deport a lot more people than just mass murderers. That's effectively what they want. Everyone else becomes, I guess, a dreamer. They're in this weird gray area where they can't be deported or won't, but they don't have any legal status. It doesn't really work. The system, it's basically slavery. You'll end up seeing these people hanging out in front of Home Depot, begging or saying, hey, you can hire me to do illegal brickwork or something. Been happening for a long time. And by the way, the Democrats like this because they get slave labor. Most of the Republicans like it because their corporate buddies like the slave labor. The MAGA crowd are the only ones taking it seriously. Eric writes, speaking of empty, please vote properly promises. Did anyone ever seriously take Madonna up on her offer? Keck, I'm perfectly fine without herpes, thanks. Yeah, I wonder if anyone ever did press her on that. Like, hey, I voted for Hillary and you promised that you'd suck my dick if I did that. I wonder if anyone ever went to a concert and had a sign or something to that effect. Probably did. She can't be too choosy, considering her botched lip job. Next story. Pelosi says her husband never made stock purchases based on info she gave him. House Speaker Pelosi responded, absolutely not, when pressed by Fox News Digital on whether her husband bought stock based on inside info. This has to do with computer chip stocks, specifically NVIDIA, I believe, if I remember correctly. And this is Fox, so of course, they pretend to be gunning for the liberals. Not really, but I think personally that individuals and their spouses, when they're in politics, should in no way be able to buy, sell, or trade stock at all. They should divest themselves completely before entering office. If it's at the federal level, if a state doesn't care, states under the 10th Amendment, they have the right. They can be as corrupt as they want. Insider trading, who gives a damn? Let them enable the politicians to grift if they want. If you're entering Congress or if you're in the presidency or something, you should be effectively forced to divest. I noticed that Trump effectively did this by handing his entire business empire to a group of managers and to his kids. He didn't have this problem. He and Melania weren't stock trading while he was president, but Nancy Pelosi gets a pass. Yes, it seems a little bit odd when your husband, and totally not you, even though you're literally a legal and fiscal proxy for him, you're sharing fucking money anyway. It's a little bit odd when your husband decides to invest enormous sums of money, more than a lot of people make in 10 years, by the way, on computer chip stocks right before a federal law comes through, a federal deal involving that kind of chip. It's amazing. You made a lot of money off of this. I'm beginning to think that we might have found out why Nancy Pelosi's worth, I think, above $100 million on a low six-figure congressional salary, by the way. She's not the most well-paid person in Congress, House members typically getting a lot less than senators, but somehow she's worth more than virtually anyone. She could buy a fucking town with the money that she has. Instead, she just buys $20,000 refrigerators and $50 a gallon ice cream, but each to their own. Hey, Nancy, I never talk to my husband about business things. We're totally not a power couple. The Kurt Cheney, Derek does butt stuff. No clue what that involves. Probably don't want to know. Yeah. The Speaker believes the sunlight is the best disinfectant. The Speaker has asked Committee on House Administration Chair Zoe Lofgren to examine the issue of members' unacceptable non-compliance with the reporting requirements in the Stock Act, including the possibility of stiffening penalties, Hamill said. That has to do with Congress and day trading in general. Why is it that people in Congress, number one, can be dual citizens, number two, are capable of buying and selling stock or interest or whatever? Why is this even a thing? In the olden days, usually if people were getting into positions of power in enlightened societies, they were expected to forego certain things, or at least, in public. So, the king should, he's got a couple concubines, but he's not supposed to go whoring in the street or something. He's not supposed to be playing with dicks. This person is the Pope, so we expect him not to flaunt his wealth. Well, I mean, they do now, but at certain times when there was more closure about religious issues, the idea was that wouldn't happen. What about Pelosi? She's living the high life. Can you imagine dinner at her house? Imagine that Ben Carson shows up and she accidentally thinks that he's the help. Yeah, people are never open and honest with their spouses, Elsie and Allison. True, in her case, she might not be honest with him. But don't you think that this particular trade was prefaced on this insider information? It never came up at the dinner table or during one of their bruncheons, which frequently, I'm sure, involves Chardonnay or champagne. And then the last news story, China in distress, economy suffering rapid slowdown as systemic problems surface. Yes, in the last week, you have seen what could be a foreshock to the collapse of the paper tiger. We're all hoping that that's the case. If China collapses, it would be good for the world, at least long term. Although short term, it would be pretty painful for people, and prices would definitely rise further. I just think long term, it'd be nice if West Taiwan were crippled and debilitated back into sub-third world status so they could be annexed by proper Taiwan. I think that'd be the best possible situation. What's happened is that GDP growth in China has slowed to a crawl. And unfortunately, when that happens, investors start looking at places like Malaysia, or Thailand, or the Philippines, or any of these other countries, or Pakistan, or India, some of which are semi-subjugate to China, by the way. It's part of their long-term strategy to prevent themselves from collapsing because of these things as well. And when the investment begins to dry up, the jobs dry up, when the banks have runs because people are getting worried, what does China do? They park tanks out in front of the banks. And the banks announce to people, you can't withdraw your funds because now they're one of our assets now. It's a long-term sort of thing. You can only withdraw a little bit, what you need to buy your bowl of rice, basically. Very, very interesting. Yeah, China is so great for the world. Such great human rights records. I love it when idiots like Malpin will heap praise on China and say, well, the United States is actually the main human rights abuser. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got tanks in front of banks in the United States on a fairly regular basis. We also just flood out people's farmland once in a while without any sort of compensation for the people that lived there for the last 1,000 years. You Hopper, Sticks, have you seen the new Starfield game? Yeah, not interested. I guess the idea is it's like a space Skyrim. Well, I'd rather just wait for the next Elder Scrolls title if I'm going to do that. I want it to be medieval. I want magic and shit like that. If I want to do the retro-futuristic thing, I'll play Fallout. Anyway, I think it's about time to go off here. No more super chats, by the way, please. Because I've covered all the news stories, and we're going up on an hour 10, and I still hear the infant upstairs chortling about a little bit. We eclipsed, what would that be? That'd be 15 Biden loser units. So good job, everyone. We're still doing it. Can't wait till the midterm stream. I'd be surprised if not even 10,000 people show up. Brother Doom, West Taiwan is a rogue state. I don't want its people to suffer, but I wouldn't be able to stifle my jubilation at the paper tiger's fall. Exactly. And the last one, Blood Right over on Rumble. Frank Biden rose to rehab prominence for some reason and held a group. I was trying to clean up and listening to an asshole bloviate for hours didn't help. I believe in your story. I under any normal circumstances, I'd say, well, you're full of it. But with Frank Biden, yeah, I believe you. That's about all.